Hi everybody. This is my review of the DOOGEE or DOOGEE, really depends on who you're talking to, DG580 KISSME. I'll just stick with the name KISSME from here on out. Yet another OnePlus clone out of China with a nice big 5.5-inch screen, running Android 4.4.2. It's a dual SIM phone with dual standby, which I like. The CPU that they have included on this particular phone is the well-known and well-respected MediaTek MTK 6582. It's running at 1.3 gigahertz, and yes, it's a quad-core. The GPU is a Mali 400, which might be getting a little long in tooth, but still plays back games just fine in my opinion. It is a dual-core. It is a multi-processor GPU, so it does have a little bit of power. It sports 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of internal memory, but the way DOOGEE decided to split up that memory is what makes this phone a little bit unique. Mostly this is a trick that people who root their phones do to increase internal storage. In other words, to allow for larger downloads of larger apps. What DOOGEE did was split up the 8 GB into 2 and 6. The 2 GB partition is twice the size of a normal partition on a China phone, or really on any Android phone, and that allows for much larger apps to be downloaded without errors popping up. Really nice touch on DOOGEE's part for including that out of the box. So that's one unique feature of this phone. Of course, that leaves you with about 4 GB of usable RAM for internal storage, but this does have a 64 GB micro SD slot, which which I've used up to 64 GB on, Works really nicely, and not a single problem with slowdown or otherwise on that. Wi-Fi, it also has Wi-Fi built in, DGN, single band, but it gets the job done. The bands that this phone handles are GSM and WCDMA. The GSM bands are 850, 900, 1800, and 1900 MHz, and I will say that the 1900 MHz refarmed in the US works perfectly with me on T-Mobile. I get full 3G H+ speeds, which is really nice. WCDMA speeds are 850, 1900, and 2100, and 3G works perfectly on all three of those bands. Does have a GPS built in, does have Bluetooth 4.0 built in, and to round off the specs, it has, even though most sites state it as 8 megapixel, it has a in real life 5 megapixel real camera, and also really nice, an actual 5 megapixel front facing camera. So selfie folks out there, you're really gonna like the way that works. The rear camera has autofocus and a dual LED flash. I could show it to you here. It's actually really nice, to be honest. Even though it's only 5 megapixels, it takes pretty good shots. Let me give you an idea in the gallery of just what this thing has done for me, both video-wise and picture-wise. Here, I have a koi pond, so here's koi in all their glory with the 5 megapixel camera. Actually, they move around a lot, and this is not an HDR enhanced photo at all. This is just the way the thing takes, and colors pop pretty nicely. It's not too grainy at all. I've gotten real good pull-ins on here, and all told, it takes pretty decent pictures. Are they the best pictures you've ever seen? Probably not, but I will state that for the price that you're going to get this phone for, which by the way is a paltry $100. It is a pretty amazing, a pretty nice phone. It really is. As for videos, I took a shot of a fireplace. I just let it run for a little while. Hopefully this gives you an idea that it handles movement pretty nicely, and handles colors and bright lights nicely as well. So video wise, works very, very well. I also took a couple of stills of that fire just to give you an idea how that looked, both on a stand-up basis. I can pull in again, and again you can see this thing actually takes some pretty nice pics. It really does. I was very impressed with the camera shooting ability on this phone. You can get either really, really good ones, or you're either going to get a really good or a really bad camera on a China phone. Pretty rarely you get something in between. This is an in-between. It's not the best I've seen, it's not the worst I've seen, but it definitely gets the job done. The front-facing end of the camera actually is what I am more impressed with. the fact that you're not going to find many phones in the $100 range. Actually, I don't think you're going to find any phones in the $100 range that are going to give you the ability to have a front-facing 5 megapixel. I'm doing this right now so I can show you me. Ain't that pretty? The bottom line here is it really does a very, very nice job. Doesn't blur too well. The colors are pretty well saturated. As a front-facing camera, as front-facing cameras go, this is one of the better ones I've seen. So for you selfie lovers, this is the phone for you. If all you have is $100 to play around with. Videos work very, very, very smoothly, as I've showed earlier. Netflix, YouTube, Crackle, all the main apps that you play them back on, play back smooth, no problems whatsoever. And 2.2 came through very nicely for me. Typical for this particular chipset, nothing new, nothing special, but it does have a very nice number of 18,473. Device info. As you can see, it's being fooled into thinking it has an 8.3 megapixel camera on the rear, and actually it really is a 5 megapixel. RAM shows up as 1 gigabyte here, but system storage is split up between, as I stated earlier, 2 gigabyte and 4.14 gigabyte, as I've stated earlier. Like I said, that's really nice if you want to be able to download larger games without it running out of memory on you. As you can see, it does have the quad-core processor, the Mali 400 GPU, the 960 by 540, I did say it a little wrong earlier, 240 DPI density. Again, nothing spectacular, but the pixelation, like I said, is almost impossible to see if you're keeping the thing at even a decent length away from you. The only way you're going to see any kind of pixelation at all is if you're putting this thing right up to your face. And, well, nobody uses their phone that way, so that's not really that important. Let's see, I know there's also something on here that allows me to test and see how many, the multi-test on here. I've actually gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's it. It is a 5-point multi-touch screen. Works good. The IPS screen, like I said, the colors, as I've shown you on here a couple of times, they pop. They're very well saturated. Really, a nice screen for $100, and the size seals it. 5.5 inches. It is the perfect size for watching videos, reading books. If you don't want to carry a tablet and a phone around with you, this is really an excellent design for that. As for gaming, this is where the 5.5 inch screen really shines. I'm gonna play a good, I guess you can call it a classic at this point, NSF Shift. It gets loud, it gets good, and I think this thing works extremely well. Takes a few minutes to load up. It'll load up eventually. It does take a little while sometimes, but there we go. Once it goes, it goes. Look at the colors popping on this game. They look great. I'm going to try and do this while staring into a camera, which is hard. There we go. Sound on this is actually pretty good. As you can see, G-Sensor works very well. And again, I'm hoping I'm keeping this thing on the screen, but I am trying to look at the game more than I'm looking at the camera screen. As you can see, no dropouts. Runs very smoothly. Handles very nicely. Allows you to play quite aggressively if you want to. And again, there you have it. Gaming on this is, I've had zero problems with. All the Asphalt series up to the latest one works beautifully. You are not going to have a problem with this at all. So really, to be honest, I'm going to sum up here really quickly. There's not much more to say about this phone other than go out and buy it. GearBest supplied me with this example. They've also supplied me with a coupon code that I'm going to put below for you guys. You have a look at it and see if this is really if you really want to get your feet wet in phablets without spending a fortune, this is the perfect phone for that. Has lots of power, good expandability, and a really, really strong processor that really allows you to do anything you want to do with the phone without any problems at all. If you have any questions at all, ask me below. I'll answer to the best of my ability. Thanks for watching.